Do want to get to an update on a story that we have been tracking over the past several days here. A Wisconsin man is accused of now forging a letter threatening President Trump's life in an effort to get another man deported. Prosecutors said in a criminal complaint filed Monday that Demetric Scott, seen on the right side of your screen there, was behind a letter sent to state and federal officials with the return address and name of Ramon Morales Reyes. Scott has now been charged with felony witness intimidation, identity theft, and 2 counts of bail jumping. Immigration agents arrested Morales Reyes on May 21st after he dropped his child off at school in Milwaukee. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announcing that arrest, saying that he had written a letter threatening to kill Trump and would, quote, self-deport to Mexico. The announcement, which also was posted by the White House on social media, contained an image of the letter as well as that photo on the left-hand side of your screen of Morales Reyes. But the claim started to unravel as investigators talked to him, and he didn't speak English fluently and obtained a handwriting sample from him that was different than the sample in the letters. That is according to court documents. Those documents also allege that Demetric Scott admitted to penning and sending the letters to the Attorney General, the police chief, and ICE. Investigators say Scott claimed he did it to get Morales Reyes deported from the U.S. and prevent him from testifying against him at an upcoming criminal trial. A lot to discuss here, so I do want to bring in Kane Ulahan, the attorney for Morales Reyes, who is handling his fight against deportation. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and discuss all of this.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And first off, I do want to ask you, because you held a news conference alongside his other attorney just last week, and you were adamant that he did not write these letters and also that he didn't speak English fluently. So how do you feel? How did you feel when you heard that someone else had officially been charged with forging these letters?
Well, certainly the first thing was a bit of relief because, as you said, we knew from the beginning that my client didn't write these letters, was incapable of it, and had no intention of making this type of threat. It was a bit of a relief, I think, to everyone, the family, to know that this is now public information and that the actual perpetrator has been found and charged. The other thing that went through my mind was, a hope that the Department of Homeland Security will now do the responsible thing, which is to acknowledge their mistake and to, I would hope, call for an end to the threats that my client and his family have faced.
And that was going to be my next question, is whether you had heard from Homeland Security in any way, and it sounds as though you have not, correct?
That's correct. We haven't heard anything as of yet. This is a new development. The charges were just issued yesterday, so we're still hopeful.
What about the situation as it goes from here? What are the legal avenues that are available? Because right now it sounds as though Morales Reyes, your client there, could actually be deported.
That's right. He's currently detained in a local jail, detained by ICE and facing a deportation hearing with an immigration judge in Chicago. First of all, we're focused on gaining his release so he can be with his family and try to heal from some of this trauma they've all been through. But in terms of a more long-term strategy, we're really focused on his long time in the United States and his family ties. He does have 3 United States citizen children who depend on him. And so there are some forms of relief that can be based on, longtime presence in the U.S. and the possible effects of his deportation on his children. So we're still investigating that, and we will pursue any relief that he's eligible for.
When you look a little bit closer at all of this, has Morales Reyes, can you explain what a U visa really is overall?
Yeah. So my client does have a U visa pending, and a U visa was created by Congress for 2 things, really. One, to assist law enforcement in investigating and prosecuting crimes, but also to give some motivation and protection for immigrants to come forward when they're victimized. So if an immigrant is a victim of a serious crime, they can report that to law enforcement, cooperate, and be helpful in the investigation, making our streets safer, right? Getting criminals off the streets, but also providing them with some protection. It's a visa that would allow them to stay in the United States for a period of 4 years.
As you look at this whole thing, how do high profile cases like this one right here influence maybe public opinion on immigration, deportation, and what role do attorneys play, like yourself, in kind of shaping that narrative?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a big and important role. Most folks in the American public don't see the day-to-day immigration cases that, my office handles, the marriages, the fiance visas, the other humanitarian and asylum type cases. But what they do get exposed to is these type of cases, the statements by attorneys, the statements by public officials in our government. And that's really where they get a lot of their information from. So it's so critical that when we're in these positions that we're providing accurate and truthful information, because as we've seen, there have been a lot of false reports. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So I think it's really incumbent on us, as those who have access to the public media, to really get good information out there. And that's part of why I'm really hopeful that Department of Homeland Security will come forward with a statement correcting their prior statement.
What do you see as far as the major legal challenges that now exist from this point on?
Well, so are you referring to this case or just
This
in
case,
general?
yeah.
This case, yeah. I mean, one for sure is that he's in custody, and there's no guarantee we'll be able to get him out if the government opposes his or appeals. If the judge decides to grant him a bond and the government decides to appeal, he could be detained for quite a while, and that's not easy for someone to endure. The other legal challenges are that it's just not easy to win an immigration case in court. We've got evidence we've got to submit. We've got to convince the judge that he's eligible for the relief. And again, the government has appellate rights. So it's going to be a process. And how long partially depends on whether he gets out. If he's in custody, things will move more quickly. If he gets out of custody, it'll take quite a bit longer.
How could this situation maybe prevent other people who witness a crime or are the victims of crimes from coming forward? This was something that was mentioned during that news conference, and I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why we created the U visa, because we want victims to come forward, right? We don't want them to hide in the shadows and allow crimes to continue to be committed unpunished. We want immigrants to feel safe coming to law enforcement and giving them help and providing the testimony that they need to find, investigate crimes and prosecute those crimes, to hold the perpetrators accountable. If people are targeted in these large scale enforcement operations, regardless of their status as a victim, it's going to discourage them and make them too scared to come forward and participate and cooperate with law enforcement, which I think at the end of the day leaves us all less safe, leaves our communities less safe.
All right, Kane Ulahan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and talk about your client's case and what all of this means. Is there anything else that you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
I guess, my client, like many immigrants, is a humble person, a hardworking person who has deep family ties here. And, I think he's just looking for clearing of his name, which I think is well on its way to happening, and access to due process, which everyone in this country deserves. And thanks a lot for having me.
All right, Kane Ulahan, thank you again. Have a good rest of your day.
You as well. Thanks.